Level 1, the volunteer.
You sign the forms at a folding table inside a fire station on the edge of town. The coordinator shakes your hand. She's wearing a navy blue jacket with a reflective patch on the shoulder, and she looks at you the way people look at someone who just made a decision they don't yet understand. You are 20 years old. You grew up hiking trails behind your parents' house. You learned to read topographic maps in a Boy Scout troop that met in a school gymnasium every Thursday. You watched documentaries about cave rescues and mountain recoveries, and you thought, with complete sincerity, that you understood what this work was.
You don't. Not yet.
Your first training weekend takes place on a Saturday in November. It is raining. The team leader, a quiet man in his 40s named Dale, walks your small group of new recruits through the parking lot at dawn and explains search theory, probability of detection, search segments, hasty routes, and type 2 errors, which is the technical term for when you search an area and the subject is there and you still don't find them. He says that last part twice. The second time, he makes eye contact with each person individually. He is telling you something about humility before you have done anything at all. You spend the morning learning to set up a litter carry. 6 people, a rigid plastic stretcher, a simulated patient who is actually a fellow trainee named Marcus who keeps complaining about the handles digging into his armpits. You practice carrying him down a hillside.
You drop the litter once.
Not badly, not dangerously, but you drop it. Dale writes something on his clipboard and says nothing. In the afternoon, they put you in a field exercise. You are given a grid square on a map, a compass bearing, and a partner. Your partner is a retired schoolteacher named Carol who has been on the team for 2 years and who moves through the underbrush like she was built for it. You search your grid. You find nothing. You report back. The debrief tells you that 2 training clues were hidden in your sector.
You missed both. You drive home in the dark. Your legs ache.
Your boots gave you a blister on your right heel the size of a quarter. You did not find the simulated missing person. You did not find the training clues. You are not yet qualified to deploy on an actual search. You sign up for the next training weekend before you get home.
Level 2, the trainee.
6 months in, you've completed the required coursework in land navigation, patient packaging, radio communications, and basic wilderness medicine. 3 overnight exercises in terrain that did not care about your comfort. Written evaluations passed. You are now a trainee, 1 step below full operational status, which means you can deploy on searches but only under direct supervision and only in a support role. Your first real call-out comes on a Tuesday. A 12-year-old boy has gone missing from a summer camp in the eastern foothills. He wandered away from a hiking group around 2 in the afternoon. It is now 6 in the evening and the temperature is dropping. You arrive at the incident command post in a parking area at the trailhead. 18 searchers are assembling. The incident commander, a woman named Patrice, is standing at a folding table covered in topographic maps with colored pencil markings. She is calm in the way that buildings are calm. Nothing about her manner suggests urgency and everything about the situation is urgent. You are assigned to a 3-person team. Your team leader, a guy named Torres, has been doing this for 11 years. He hands you a radio and tells you to stay within arm's reach unless he specifically tells you otherwise.
You nod. You follow.
Your team searches a grid along a drainage creek east of the camp. Full dark within the first hour. Your headlamp picks out rocks, root systems, the occasional pair of eyes from something small and nocturnal that retreats before you can identify it. Torres moves slowly and systematically. He checks every hollow log. He looks behind every boulder. He calls the boy's name every 30 seconds in a flat, carrying voice that has no panic in it. The boy is found by a different team, 2 ridges over, sitting under a rock overhang eating the emergency granola bar from the camp counselor's first aid kit.
He is cold but unhurt.
The news comes over the radio. Torres says, "Good," and turns your team back toward the trailhead.
1 word.
That's the whole celebration. You ask Torres on the walkout if it always feels like this. He asks what it feels like. You say you expected something bigger at the end. He says the big feeling is when you don't find them in time, and you should appreciate the quiet ones while you have them. You remember that for the rest of your career. Level 3, the operational member. You receive your operational certification on a Friday morning. The paper says you are a qualified search and rescue technician. What it doesn't say is that you are now the person a family will see when they are in the worst hours of their lives and you are one of the people responsible for bringing someone home. You go on 14 searches in your first full operational year.
8 subjects found.
3 of those searches end in recoveries, not rescues. A recovery is the term for when the person is no longer alive when you reach them. The terminology is deliberately neutral. The experience is not. The first recovery involves an elderly man who walked away from an assisted living facility in January and was found in a dry creek bed 4 days later. You are part of the team that reaches him first.
You radio base.
You wait for instructions.
You document the scene.
You do everything procedurally correct. On the drive home, you sit in the passenger seat and look out the window for 90 minutes without saying anything. Your teammate who is driving doesn't ask you to talk. She is 2 years ahead of you and she already knows what that drive feels like. The job is mostly preparation, occasionally activation, and sometimes aftermath. The actual search is motion and focus and the specific narrow task of putting one foot in front of another and looking carefully at the world around you. The aftermath is harder. It follows you into the week, into the month, into the memory that surfaces without warning while you're doing something entirely ordinary. Your navigation skills sharpen this year. You can place yourself on a topo map within 50 meters in terrain you have never visited before. You can run a compass bearing through dense brush and come out within 30 feet of your target. You start reading terrain like reading a sentence, looking at the shape of a hillside and understanding where a disoriented person would naturally go.
Level 4, the Search Team Leader.
3 years in, you take the Search Team Leader course. It runs over 2 weekends and covers task assignment, team management, radio protocol, on-scene decision-making, and the particular pressure of being the person responsible for a group of people in terrain that can hurt them. The final exercise puts you in charge of a 5-person team, while the training instructors actively introduce complications. Your radio fails at the worst moment. One of your team members simulates a twisted ankle. Your grid turns out to contain a drainage feature not on the map. You navigate all 3, complete your assignment, bring everyone back to the trailhead. The instructor debriefs you for 40 minutes and points out 7 errors. You were aware of 4 of them at the time.
You pass.
Leading a team on a real deployment is different from any training exercise in ways that are hard to explain. When you were a line member, the weight sat primarily on your team leader's shoulders and you felt it secondhand. Now it sits on yours. At the base of the neck. At the front of the mind. A low-frequency awareness that does not fully switch off for the duration of the deployment. You lead your first team on a search for a missing trail runner in the canyon system west of the reservoir. 43 years old, experienced, overdue by 6 hours. Your team draws the far segment, 3 miles of exposed ridgeline that nobody else has covered. You move efficiently. Position updates every 30 minutes. You finish your assignment and radio in clean. The subject turns up an hour later with a sprained ankle and significant embarrassment. After that search, 2 of your team members tell you that you were calm out there and that it helped them stay focused. You accept the observation without deflecting it, because Dale taught you years ago that leadership means receiving feedback honestly in both directions. But you also remember the interior version of that search, 47 minutes when you were certain you were in the wrong segment and spending resources that should have been elsewhere. The calm on the outside and the calculation on the inside are not the same thing. Holding both without letting either collapse is the skill nobody teaches you explicitly. You develop it by doing it, repeatedly, until it stops feeling like a contradiction. Level 5, the Technical Rescue Specialist. You complete your Technical Rescue certification in your 5th year. Rope systems, rigging, anchor construction, vertical patient lowering, high-angle extraction. A week on a cliff face learning to trust physics expressed as knots and friction devices. You lower a litter down a 70-foot face while an instructor narrates your errors from above. There are fewer errors than there used to be. Progress is measurable in the size of the mistakes, not the absence of them. Technical callouts are a different category of deployment. A hiker with a broken leg on flat ground is a logistical challenge. A hiker with a broken leg on a cliff face is a systems problem that requires precise execution in conditions that do not allow for significant error. Your first major technical deployment is a fallen climber on a rock face in the national forest. 60 feet down from a ledge, non-responsive when found by his climbing partner. Your team arrives and begins a technical lower while the medical team assesses. The patient has head trauma and a fractured femur. Your job is to get him off the face intact, which requires building a haul system and a lowering system simultaneously and coordinating 4 people on rope across a face with loose rock on the upper third. 2 hours and 40 minutes. The patient is airlifted to a trauma center with a pulse. You learn later that he spends 3 weeks in the hospital and then goes home. You never find out whether he climbs again. That information doesn't reach you, and you accept that it isn't yours to have. Your technical skills make you useful in environments where generalist members cannot safely operate: flood rescues, building collapses, mine shaft recoveries. Each environment has its own logic and its own specific ways of going wrong if you make a sequence of avoidable errors. You develop a methodical temperament that people around you occasionally describe as cold.
It isn't cold.
It's the practice of separating the emotional register from the operational register during execution, then letting them reconnect during the aftermath, which is when they belong together. Level 6, the Operations Section Chief. 8 years in, you are asked to move into incident management. From the field to the command post. From doing the work to directing the people who do it. It is a harder transition than any technical certification you have earned. As Operations Section Chief, you manage field teams from the command post.
You look at maps.
You receive radio traffic. You push resources to segments based on probability analysis and whatever new information has come in.
You do not see the terrain. You do not search.
You coordinate the people who do, and the quality of their work depends partly on the quality of your decisions, which you are making on incomplete information in a time-compressed environment while someone's family stands 30 feet away at the edge of the parking lot, watching the activity at the command post and trying to read your face for information you don't yet have. You get very good at controlling your face. A large search can involve 50, 60, 100 searchers and support personnel. Managing that complexity requires you to hold the entire search in your head simultaneously. Which segments have been covered, at what probability of detection, by which teams, what the cumulative search effect looks like against the theoretical distribution of where the subject might be. Spatial reasoning and probability and personnel management, all running in parallel, all day and through the night if the search continues. Some searches continue for days. You run a 3-day search for a missing backpacker in the wilderness area north of the county line. Female, 61, experienced, planned a solo loop but did not return to her car on the scheduled day. By day 2, the search covers 8 square miles with elevation changes from 4,000 to 9,000 feet. 37 field personnel, 2 helicopter assets, 1 dog team. A probability map updated every 6 hours. She is found on the morning of day 3, alive, 12 miles from her vehicle, in a drainage she reached after taking a wrong fork 2 days prior. Dehydrated, hypothermic, frightened. When the radio call comes in, you give the incident commander the grid coordinates and go back to the map to calculate extraction options. The relief comes later in the car, when you can finally let yourself feel the outcome instead of managing it. Level 7, the Incident Commander. 11 years in, you command your first major incident. The title means you hold final authority over all operational, logistics, planning and financial decisions for the duration of the event. You answer to the agency administrator, the sheriff's office, the family liaison, the media coordinator, and your own section chiefs simultaneously. When there is no more information to work with and a decision still has to be made, you make it. Every force generated below you travels toward you. Every pressure the situation generates accumulates at your position. That isn't a metaphor. It's just what the job is. Your first commanded incident runs for 5 days. A missing 14-year-old boy from a rural address, autistic, nonverbal, with a tendency to seek water when distressed. You implement a water-focused search strategy from the first operational period, overriding the statistical default that would search highest probability areas first. Your planning section chief questions the call. You hear him out, explain your reasoning, and hold your position. The boy is found in a stock pond on day 2, alive, wading chest-deep in water, 3/4 of a mile from the residence. Afterward, your planning section chief says you made the right read. You tell him the reasoning was sound, but the outcome doesn't validate any individual decision after the fact. He looks at you for a moment and then nods. You command incidents where the outcome is different. A young woman gone from a trailhead. 7 days with full resources. On the 8th day, a dog team finds her in a ravine. She did not survive the fall. You walk into the family notification meeting with the sheriff's representative and you sit across from her parents and you tell them what happened and where she was found and that nothing in the search record could have been done differently to change what happened. Her father sits very still. Her mother holds both of his hands in both of hers. You stay in that room for 90 minutes. You answer every question they have. You drive to the command post, clear the equipment, thank your personnel, and release the incident. You sit in your car for 20 minutes before starting the engine. The job asks this of you periodically. There is no path around it.
Level 8, the Team Manager.
14 years in, you take on management of the entire team. Personnel development, equipment acquisition, grant writing, agency partnerships, training curriculum, volunteer retention, and the specific problem of maintaining operational readiness in an all-volunteer organization where people have jobs and families and competing obligations that make showing up to a Tuesday call-out at midnight a genuine sacrifice. Your job is to make the sacrifice worth making without turning it into an expectation. You have 120 active members. 20 of them are your core, the people who show up to everything. 40 more show up consistently. The remaining 60 are available and qualified and valuable when they activate, but they have careers and young children and mortgages, and you do not hold their occasional absence against them. You recruited them by asking something significant of them. You retain them by not asking for more than is fair. You spend 3 months writing a federal grant application for thermal imaging equipment. You attend 4 county budget meetings. You sit across from a county administrator who is polite but does not fully understand what your team does, and you explain it with statistics and case histories until he understands it well enough to approve the line item. You are not a natural administrator.
You became one because the team needed one.
The emotional load here is different from the field. In the field, the load is immediate and situational, and it ends when you leave the terrain. In management, it's chronic. You carry the welfare of 120 people. When a senior member burns out and steps back, you feel it. When a promising trainee quits because the demands are incompatible with a new job, you feel that too. When 2 longtime members have a conflict that threatens to fragment the team's cohesion, you sit in the middle of it and work toward resolution with the patience of someone who understands that losing either person would cost the team more than whatever the conflict is worth. You also carry the cumulative weight of every difficult outcome over 14 years. The recoveries don't stack up heavier over time, exactly.
They just become more present.
They visit you with the same frequency. You become more practiced at holding them alongside everything else.
Level 9, the Regional Coordinator.
18 years in, you are appointed Regional SAR Coordinator by the State Emergency Management Office. 12 counties, 14 SAR teams, 1,100 combined volunteers. You do not manage any single team. You manage the system that connects all of them. You are the person who answers when an incident exceeds local resources and requires mutual aid. Protocols in place, resource lists updated quarterly, interoperability agreements signed with adjacent regions, a communication architecture that lets teams from different counties operate under unified command on a single large incident without stepping on each other. The architecture only works if you built it correctly. You spent 3 years building it. You coordinate a multi-county search for 2 missing children after a vehicle went into a river during a flash flood. 12 teams, 9 counties, 3 state agencies, 2 federal representatives, all operating inside an incident structure you are managing from a regional coordination center 60 miles from the site. You push resources based on reports from the on-scene incident commander. You clear bureaucratic friction between agencies that would otherwise slow the movement of personnel and equipment. You make 4 critical resource decisions in the first 12 hours that the on-scene commander tells you later change the search geometry entirely. Both children are found alive. They survived the vehicle going into the water and were swept downstream into a debris pile where they sheltered for 19 hours. When the radio report reaches your coordination center, your staff coordinator, a woman named Iris who has been doing this work for 22 years, looks across the table at you. Neither of you says anything. The silence holds both the relief and the years it took to build something capable of finding them. You attend after-action reviews where the outcome was different. Conference rooms, timeline reconstructions, team leaders and agency representatives across a table. You are not there to assign blame. You are there to extract whatever the case teaches so it doesn't repeat. Sometimes the lesson is about resources. Sometimes it's about communication. Sometimes an experienced person made a reasonable decision under pressure and someone still died. Those are the hardest reviews. You hold them to the same standard anyway. Level 10, the Retired Coordinator. You retired last spring. There was a plaque, a handshake, a dinner at a restaurant where your longtime colleagues told stories about incidents you had forgotten and incidents you will never forget. You thanked them all individually.
You meant every word.
You live in the same county you have lived in for 30 years. Your house has a porch facing east and you drink your coffee there in the mornings and watch the light come up over the tree line. You have not watched a sunrise without monitoring it in 2 decades. You watch this one without any equipment on your belt. Your radio is in a drawer. The frequency is still in your memory. You have not been able to make yourself forget it.
You are 58.
Your left knee is a negotiation you have every morning before the first stare. Your right shoulder clicks on rotation from an incident in a narrow slot canyon where you braced a litter load at an awkward angle for 40 minutes and never found a good time to get it looked at. There was always another deployment. There was always a grant deadline or a budget cycle or a training calendar that needed finalizing first. You managed your volunteers' bodies carefully. You managed your own the way people manage a vehicle they intend to run past its service interval. Your daughter is 31. She is a paramedic in a city 3 hours north. She became one partly because of you, she has told you, and partly in spite of you. You were not always present for the things that required presence. You were somewhere else, coordinating something urgent for someone else's family, while your own family learned to work around your absence the way water works around a stone. That it worked doesn't mean it cost nothing. It means they had no other option. You have a granddaughter who is 4. She runs to you when you visit and grabs your hand and pulls you toward whatever she wants to show you. She hasn't learned yet to filter her enthusiasm through the possibility that your attention might be elsewhere. You are never elsewhere when she is pulling your hand. You are more present with her than you managed to be with almost anyone for most of the previous 30 years. You don't know whether that's growth or compensation.
Probably both.
The phone still rings. Former colleagues, younger coordinators, incident managers asking about historical cases or protocol decisions or the administrative structure of a particular mutual aid agreement from 2019. You answer every call. The institutional knowledge is in your head and it belongs to the system, not to you, and you have an obligation to transfer it before it retires with you permanently. You attend a regional SAR conference in the fall. They ask you to give the keynote. You stand at a podium and look out at 300 people who do this work. You tell them that the technical skills matter and the physical conditioning matters and the incident management systems matter, but none of it is sufficient without the capacity to stay present in the worst moments and to leave those moments behind without abandoning what they taught you. You tell them to carry the weight honestly, but to know the difference between carrying it and being crushed by it. You tell them those two can look identical from the outside, and the distinction is entirely interior, and it requires maintenance the same way any critical system requires maintenance. Find that maintenance wherever it actually works for you, you tell them, not wherever you think it should. They listen politely. Most of them will have to learn it by doing it repeatedly, and nothing you say from a podium will accelerate that. You give the address anyway because every useful piece of information deserves to be in circulation, even if it only lands for 2 people in the room. You walk out into the parking lot. Late afternoon, the light doing what October light does, low and amber. Your phone has 3 messages. A former colleague asking about a historical search record. A logistics question from a new coordinator in a neighboring region. Your daughter calling to tell you her daughter learned a new word today. You listen to that one twice. The word, apparently, is careful. Your granddaughter used it correctly, in context, without being taught. You call her back. You sit on the hood of your car in the parking lot while your colleagues move through the spaces around you. She tells you the whole story, every detail, in the way 4-year-olds tell stories, tangentially, loudly, fully committed to each digression. You listen to all of it.
You don't interrupt.
Somewhere right now, a 20-year-old is signing a form at a folding table inside a fire station. The coordinator is shaking their hand. They think they understand what they are committing to. They are thinking about rescues, about the moments that get photographed and remembered. They haven't thought yet about the recoveries, or the drives home without conversation, or what it costs to be the person a family sees when the news is still unknown.
They will learn.
Wrong first, then less wrong, then right in ways that take years to develop. They will carry things they didn't expect to carry and find they can carry more than they thought, which isn't the same as those things weighing nothing.
The weight is real.
Showing up anyway is a choice, renewed at every call-out, in every terrain, at every hour someone needs bringing home.